We've only just begun. I'm sorry, I had to. It's what comes to mind every time I think about this film, and even before watching it this last time, I started singing it to myself. But of course I'm talking about 1408, adapted from a Stephen King short story by Matt Greenberg, Scott Alexander, and Larry Karaszewski. It was directed by Mikkel Hafström. Someone's going to correct me on that pronunciation, I know. And mainly stars John Cusack, with people just around him, such as Samuel L. Jackson, Mary McCormack, and Jasmine Jessica Anthony. And this is one of those that I've got a long history with, and I'm like, why have I never talked about this before? I'm quite surprised. Because I did love it. I mean, it's not amazing, of course, by any standards, but the fact that it's such a contained piece for the most part and does what it's trying to do pretty well, I think deserves praise. And this is what made me recognise John Cusack as an actor. I'd not really seen him in much, to be honest, before this, but I really took him seriously because he carries this entire film on his shoulders and does it well. But an interesting bit of backstory, most of the versions I've seen have had one of the multiple endings. I think there's 3 variants that I know of, and I've now seen 2 of them, but I'll get onto that in a second. The one I've mostly seen is the one where he dies in the room, and we have his funeral, Olin's there, and tries to hand the box of stuff back to Lily, and say, you know, there you go, there's his stuff, and she refuses it. So he goes back to the car, goes, come on, I'll play this dictaphone, let's have a look, and listens to the tape and everything like that, and there's a apparition behind him and all that kind of stuff. It's super creepy, but he's fine, he can drive away, and it shows the burnt out room with his ghost there. And the impression I was given, it's kind of a hopeful ending in many ways, I would say, even though he's dead. But the impression I'm given is that now he's kind of a protector of that room. He knows what's going on, and he will make sure that the ghosts take no one else. Hopefully, no one will actually rebuild the room. No one will repair this and make it better. But when I spotted it was on Netflix recently, and I said, yes, let's watch this, I realised the ending we were getting was not the ending I'm used to, and it really threw me. I sat there like a child seeing Santa for the first time or something. I was so excited to finally see one of these other endings that I'd heard about, but I think I'd only seen a grainy clip on YouTube at some point of one of them. And there are even 2 variants of this one. The one that I saw was he's fine, he's in the hospital, he comes out, they try and rebuild their lives and everything like that. And he's sat there kind of, moving stuff around. I don't really want to deal with a box of stuff from there. But gets the dictaphone out, plays it, listens to it, and hears his kid's voice, hears Katie's voice coming through. And the version I saw, Lily hears it too. There is a version, she doesn't hear it, and it's clearly he's going crazy, or the ghosts don't show up on tape if you want to look at it that way. So I've seen the 2, I guess, more optimistic endings in many ways, because there is this idea that life does carry on in some form in this other ending. But I was so surprised. I thought the most common one was the hotel, but I don't know if Netflix have a system where they can put multiple endings out. I don't know. I'm not going to watch it multiple times just to see and sort of skip to the end just to see if I get a different one, because it might be geo-locked. It might be that, so I'm never going to see anything different here. I could VPN it, arguably, but it might not be available in other countries. It's not an experiment I'm going to do. If you are from another country and you've seen a different ending to this on Netflix recently, let me know. I love this. Like, the first watch through of it, obviously I wasn't super familiar with the short story. I've still not read it to this day, but I enjoyed what they did with it. Apparently in the original story, the whole daughter thing is very much a tiny, tiny side plot, barely even features. But I like the fact that in this they gave the heart of the piece to Katie. The reason that it breaks him is showing him his daughter, who died, unfortunately. She had a disease that could not be cured. And no one, I'm going to paraphrase the 2 Towers here, but no parent should watch their children die. And that, as an interesting sidebar, was something actually that the actor heard from a woman who had lost a child. I was like, I need to put this into Theoden's bit. But that is true. It's a weird way that I've looked at it, and the simple version is we're all destined to be orphans eventually. That's the normal way of the world. Our parents will eventually die and leave us, because that's what they're meant to do. They put us out into the world, and their legacy is secured, and eventually they will pass on themselves. It's happened for generations, and like I say, it's the correct order of things. The older ones should go first, and unfortunately it doesn't always happen. I think 1408 deserves a lot of praise for handling grief and possibly poor mourning. You know, I don't think that they've really fully dealt with the death of the daughter, and maybe that's the message here. The idea that holding on to grief, holding on to things that you've lost, isn't healthy. We all need to go through that process. We all need to release these things out into the world so that we can move on. Stuff like the loss of a child is hard because it's not how things are meant to go. And no death is fun and easy, of course. Most of the deaths that I've experienced, I suppose you could say, have been older people. There is one example that wasn't, and that's given me a massive issue for years that even I haven't fully got rid of, and I'm working through that now. But that's something that I've carried with me for longer than I should, so maybe this film is catharsis, who knows. But I do think that this deserves a lot more praise. I don't think it was as super successful as it could have been. And like I say, yeah, it's not a perfect piece. I do think the ghost effects from the woman jumping out the window, etc. like that, it's very weird, but I understand what they were trying to do. I think it was trying to replicate, you know, the sort of film techniques of the time. So I kind of give it a little bit of a pass, but it's still a bit ropey. But I think this is a fun might not be the word, but I think it's a well-crafted and entertaining piece. Like I say, moments that don't work, moments that work really well. But overall, it's enjoyable, it's entertaining, and yeah, if it gives you a better understanding of grief and grieving, then great. And again, let me know what endings you've seen. Are there any more out there? I do want to know. But that's all I'm going to say about 1408 for today, so thank you very much for letting me waffle on about that. And until next time, as always, take care.